May 19th, 1944. The sky above the Pacific is pitch black, moonless, quiet. A heavy silence drapes over the ocean like a burial shroud. Somewhere north of Bougainville, the waters hide something deadly, silent steel monsters waiting for prey. Aboard the USS England, Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton stands in the cramped Combat Information Center. The soft hum of sonar fills the space. He's 37, a career officer, but this is his first war patrol as commanding officer. He's never fired a shot in anger. He's never sunk a submarine. But tonight, that might change. The contact is moving at 6 knots, submerged, intentional, deadly. Pendleton's sonar operator tracks it, range decreasing. A Japanese submarine, likely I-16, part of a scout line stretched across the route to the Marianas. Pendleton knows the Navy cracked the code days ago. The intel is solid. This is no ghost on the scope. He watches the sonar trace, still steady. The sweat on his neck isn't from fear, but calculation. This is math, sound, timing, depth. Warfare by numbers. The USS England is no fleet destroyer. She's a Buckley-class destroyer escort, 77 feet shorter, slower, leaner, smaller crew, fewer guns, the kind of ship other captains call expendable. But England was built for one thing, hunting submarines. And mounted on her foredeck, she carries something the Japanese don't know exists, a weapon the Americans barely trust. 24 stubby tubes angled forward. A strange circular pattern of launchers, the Hedgehog, British designed, American adapted. It throws its bombs forward, not behind. Unlike depth charges, which roll off the stern and explode at depth whether they hit anything or not, Hedgehog rounds detonate only on impact. Contact fuses, no explosions unless there's a target, silent misses, no chaos, and, critically, no sonar disruption. Pendleton can track and attack simultaneously. The odds, the data, the science, it all says this weapon should be better. In trials, it had a kill rate 5 times higher than traditional depth charges. But captains don't like silence. They like explosions. Hedgehog feels too quiet, too clinical. But Pendleton, he trusts the numbers. At 13:41 hours, he gives the order. Fire. 24 projectiles arc forward from the deck. No thunder, no scream. Just the soft splash of steel hitting water. Then silence. The seconds tick down. Sonar watches, listening. Nothing. A miss. The submarine had turned. Standard Japanese evasion. It's deep, fast, radical maneuvers. But Pendleton is calm. A second attack. A single detonation at 130 feet. Too shallow. The submarine went deeper. The fathometer reads 325 feet. They had underestimated the depth. A third attack. Missed again. A fourth. Another turn inside the pattern. Pendleton adjusts the calculations. Watches the rhythm. Patterns within patterns. Mathematics again. At 14:33, the fifth attack launches. Seconds pass. 4 explosions. Then 6. Then a single massive detonation that shudders the England's hull. It lifts her stern clean out of the water. Sailors lose their footing. Some fall hard. The smell of ozone and oil floods the air. The sonar goes silent. They wait. Minutes later, the surface breaks. Wreckage, debris, oil. I-16 is gone. 107 Japanese sailors entombed below. The crew doesn't cheer. They're quiet. What they've done, what they've just proven, cuts deeper than victory. It's confirmation. This system works. This ship works. Pendleton doesn't gloat. He returns to the sonar screen because he knows what most of the Navy doesn't. There are more out there. And they're coming. The Japanese Navy had laid out 7 submarines along what they called the NA line, a picket meant to detect American fleet movements and relay them back to command. Their mission wasn't just to sink ships. It was to gather the intelligence that would determine where Admiral Toyota sent his remaining naval strength. What they didn't expect was that one American destroyer escort would take it upon herself to break that line, kill it submarine by submarine, and leave the Japanese blind. On May 20th, intelligence confirms what Pendleton suspects: 7 submarines, 7 targets. He's joined now by 2 sister ships, George and Raby, 3 ships against 7 hunters. But only England has a confirmed kill. And Pendleton knows it wasn't luck. It was Hedgehog, sonar, and timing. It was calculation, not chance. They spread out, 16,000 yards apart, a line of steel and resolve moving silently into the vast Black Sea. On May 22nd, the radar aboard George picks up a contact. Submarine surfaced, running batteries. It crash dives immediately. George fires Hedgehog. Miss. Then England moves in. The contact is 1,400 yards. Submarine is diving, maneuvering. But England's sonar team is sharp. They've drilled this. They've seen it before. The first attack misses. But at 0501, a second attack. Silence. Then 3 explosions. Then a 4th. A moment later, the sea shudders again. Wreckage surfaces at sunrise. RO-106, gone. That makes 2. Pendleton studies the pattern. Each sub reacts the same. Surface at night, dive at dawn, charge batteries in the dark, evade when detected. The tactics are old, and the U.S. has cracked them wide open. May 23rd, another contact, RO-104. The submarine commander is good. Dodges 4 attacks, turns inside the pattern, changes depth constantly. Then Haynes, aboard George, gives the order. Go ahead, England. Pendleton launches at 0834. 10 explosions. A roar that seems to echo from the bottom of the sea. Debris by 10:45. 3 kills in 72 hours. The crew of the England has become something else entirely. Not just destroyer escort. Not just hunters. They are scalpel and hammer, guided by sound and probability, slicing through the backbone of Japan's forward defense. They never speak of revenge, never mention glory. They talk about angles, speed, bearing, and they listen for the telltale ping of sonar returning from steel. And each man aboard begins to believe something that few ever do in war, that they are part of something not just effective, but extraordinary. May 24th, just before sunrise, the England, George, and Raby reform their search line and press northeast through the swells. The NA line still holds 4 more submarines, RO-116, RO-108, RO-105, and RO-109. 7 were sent. So far, 3 have vanished into the deep. But the job isn't finished. Pendleton knows that Japanese submarines don't go down easy, and now they'll be wary. The silence in Tokyo is growing louder. Admiral Toyota can't ignore that his picket line is disappearing, one by one, without a single message, without a single survivor. Whatever is doing this, it's fast, accurate, lethal, and they still have no idea it's just one destroyer escort making the kill shots. At 1:20 hours, May 24th, George's radar picks up a contact, RO-116, surfaced, vulnerable. The crew scrambles. Lights cut through the darkness, but the submarine is already diving. Within 90 seconds, she's gone from sight, slipping beneath the waves. Pendleton's crew is ready. Contact reacquired on sonar. Range, 1,800 yards. RO-116 is staying shallow, running tight maneuvers, trying to outfox the sonar pings. Most submarine commanders go deep, try to put hundreds of feet between themselves and the ocean surface. But this one's gambling. At 150 feet, the cushion is thin. Pendleton calls for an adjusted firing solution. The shallow depth changes everything. Hedgehog projectiles sink at 23 feet per second. That gives them about 6 seconds before detonation range. The order is given. Fire. The projectiles launch. 24 steel spears arcing into the Pacific night, vanishing below. 3 small detonations. Then a deep, sickening groan. The sonar operator mutters, "She's breaking up." The 4th kill is silent, almost respectful. No massive explosion, no geyser of wreckage, just the slow sound of a hull giving way, of pressure crushing steel. At 150 feet, it's not quick. Water floods in like a bullet to the lung, quiet, unstoppable. Oil surfaces first, then charred wood, insulation, fragments of gear. No bodies, no chance. RO-116 is gone. 56 more men dead. Pendleton updates his logbook. No celebration. Just a quiet nod to the sonar team. They're doing God's work, and they know it. Word spreads quickly. Back in Tulagi, Admiral Halsey gets the report. 4 submarines in 5 days. The England isn't just good. She's rewriting the book on submarine warfare. Halsey considers pulling her back. Too valuable to lose. But Commander Hamilton Haynes insists. 2 more days. Just 2 more. They can finish what they started. Halsey agrees. 1 more patrol, May 26th. Radar contact at 23:03 hours. RO-108, 110 nautical miles northeast of Seidler Harbor. Another surfaced sub. Another dive. Sonar reacquires. This sub is doing what RO-116 did, staying shallow. Fast turns, no pattern. Raby takes the first shot. Miss. Haynes doesn't hesitate. Go ahead, England. Pendleton lines up the solution. The sonar ping is strong. This submarine hasn't figured out how tight England's firing drills have become. At 23:23 hours, the launch is called. 4 hits, then 6, and then the sea explodes. The sound is not a detonation, it's a disintegration. RO-108 breaks apart in seconds. The pressure hull doesn't buckle, it shatters. The sonar trace vanishes instantly. 56 men die before they even understand what's happened. That's 5 kills. In less than a week, the Pacific Fleet hears about it the next morning. And in Washington, Admiral Ernest King, the man at the very top, receives the message. He reads the action report with growing disbelief, then writes 5 words that will echo through naval history. There'll always be an England in the United States Navy. It's a promise born of astonishment and respect. But England's mission isn't over. 2 subs remain. On May 30th, George detects RO-105. The submarine dives and vanishes into what sonar calls knuckle water, an area so disturbed it scatters pings. The contact is faint, erratic. England tracks it anyway. They've expended over half their Hedgehog ammunition. They have about 3 attacks left. Pendleton waits. The signal fades. The sub is still, silent. The Japanese commander is trying something new. Run silent. No noise, no movement. Let the Americans waste a shot. Pendleton waits. 4 hours pass. Then, just before 3:30 a.m. on May 31st, RO-105 makes its move. A brief surface run. Batteries need juice. The radar catches her for seconds. Then she dives again. But it's enough. Pendleton recalibrates. First Hedgehog salvo, missed by 200 feet. The sub turned just before impact. Second salvo, closer, only 100 feet off. Time is running out. They can't afford to guess anymore. Then the sonar operator calls it. He's turning every 4 minutes, 30 degrees. It's a pattern. That's the break. Pendleton calculates the next predicted position. Fire. The Hedgehog launches. Detonations. Hull groans. Screeching metal. But the sub is still moving. Pendleton watches the trace. RO-105 is trying to surface. Emergency procedures. Blow ballast. Escape. There isn't time. England fires again. 8 detonations. The The trace disappears. At 6:15, the sunrise reveals the slick, oil, debris, fragments. RO-105 is dead. That's number 6. 12 days, 6 submarines, 335 Japanese sailors lost, 1 American destroyer escort with a weapon no one trusted, and a crew few had even heard of. The patrol is over. Orders arrive that day. England is to return to carrier escort duty. She's proven what needed proving. By June 1st, 1944, the legend of the USS England was already spreading across the Pacific. Sailors aboard battleships whispered her name like she was some kind of myth. 6 Japanese submarines destroyed in just 12 days. 1 destroyer escort, 1 new weapon system, and 1 commanding officer who trusted logic more than luck. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton had started this patrol with no kills and a new crew. Now they were the most successful anti-submarine team in the history of the United States Navy. But 1 submarine remained, RO-109, and nobody knew where it was. Back in Tokyo, Admiral Soemu Toyota was reviewing the dismal silence of his NA patrol line. He'd deployed 7 submarines. 6 had vanished without a trace. No distress calls, no survivors, just oil slicks and broken wreckage. The Americans were doing something new, something devastating. So Toyota changed the orders. He told the last surviving submarine, RO-109, to go deep. Very deep, 400 feet or more. Stay silent. No more erratic maneuvers, no more last-minute dives. Just disappear. Surface only when absolutely necessary to recharge. And when detected, don't panic. Stay calm. Move quiet. Toyota didn't know the enemy was just 1 ship, and RO-109 didn't know it was already being hunted. Pendleton and his men had only 1 kill left to make. But they had a problem: ammunition. Every Hedgehog attack required 24 projectiles. They had used over half of their load. At most, England had enough for 3 full attacks, maybe a 4th if they were conservative. And now the Japanese subs were adapting. No more panic diving, no more predictable turns, no more surfacing on schedule. It would be the toughest kill yet. Then, on the night of June 1st, George picked up a faint radar contact 15,000 yards out. The range was long, the conditions were rough, but the contact was real. RO-109 was out there. She dove instantly. The trace faded, then returned. Pendleton was ready, but this sub-commander was smarter. Instead of running fast or making turns, he cut all power, drifted, stayed motionless in the current, created what sonar operators call knuckle water, a false echo, just enough to confuse tracking. And it worked. The sonar ping became erratic. England lost the trail. Hours passed. The crew waited. Tension filled every corridor of the ship. They were so close. 1 more kill, 1 more perfect strike to cement their record. But the ocean had gone quiet. At 2:30 a.m., the sonar operator caught a break. Movement. RO-109 was surfacing to recharge batteries. The crew had no choice. Battery power was low. Oxygen levels inside were dropping. They surfaced just long enough to kick on the diesel engines, grab a breath of air, then dove again. But George's radar had picked it up. The submarine had moved 3 miles from her previous position, drifted silently with the current. Pendleton didn't wait. He turned England and made full steam toward the last known location. Sonar picked up the contact again, deep, fast, and running. RO-109's commander was trying to escape. Full battery now, electric motors roaring at 6 knots. The deepest depth yet, 400 feet. At that depth, Hedgehog attacks had to be perfect. If the prediction was even slightly off, the submarine would slip through the attack pattern. Pendleton called for an attack. The first salvo missed. 24 projectiles sank into darkness. No explosion. The sub had turned during descent. Second salvo. Closer, but still a miss. The problem wasn't technology, it was psychology. The Japanese commander was varying his speed, slowing down, speeding up, running erratic, but only slightly, enough to break patterns, enough to mess with the firing solution. Pendleton stepped away from the fire control team and went back to his maps. He thought, he listened, and then a pattern emerged. Every 4 minutes, the sub shifted, just a little. It wasn't random after all. Pendleton adjusted the solution manually, predicted where the sub would be, not where it was. Third attack, 4 detonations, then 6 more. A wall of sound hit the hull. Pressure rolled across the sea. RO-109 was hit, but she didn't break apart, not yet. The crew inside was scrambling. Seawater was pouring in. Battery fumes filled the air. The emergency blow system activated. The sub began to rise. They were trying to abandon ship, but England was already preparing the final blow. Fourth salvo, 8 detonations, then silence. At 6:15 a.m., debris surfaced. RO-109 was gone, and with her, the NA line. All 7 submarines had been eliminated in just 13 days. Pendleton's ship had done the impossible, not in theory, not in training, in real combat, with real consequences. 335 Japanese sailors, 7 submarines, 1 destroyer escort, 1 unproven weapon that no one else had trusted. When word reached Admiral King again, he sent out a fleet-wide order. Update Hedgehog training across the Pacific. Every destroyer escort was to drill the England's methods. Every sonar team was to study their attack records. And every fire control officer was to memorize Pendleton's solutions. Back at Purvis Bay, the England limped into port. Her deck was worn, her crew exhausted, her magazines almost empty. But her name would be etched into history. The President of the United States awarded her the Presidential Unit Citation, one of only 3 destroyer escorts to ever receive it. The citation read, "For extraordinary heroism in action against enemy Japanese submarines." But that's not what sailors remembered. They remembered the numbers. Over 5,000 depth charge attacks by British forces had resulted in just 85 kills, a 1.6% success rate. Hedgehog, a 5% success rate in early tests. The England, 6 confirmed kills in about 15 attacks, a 40% success rate, 25 times more effective than depth charges. And it wasn't just the weapon, it was the men. It was Pendleton. It was trust in the data when others clung to old habits. It was nerve in the face of the unknown. As the sun rose on May 23rd, USS England had already achieved something few thought possible. 3 Japanese submarines sunk in just over 72 hours. But the sea still held deadly secrets. The NA picket line stretched across a vast stretch of ocean, and 4 submarines remained. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton and his crew understood the stakes. Every sub left afloat meant more eyes on the Pacific, more intelligence reaching Admiral Toyota in Tokyo, and more risk to the coming American operations in the Marianas. The tempo did not slow. At 0600, D. Raby detected a new surface contact, likely RO-104 or RO-105. As before, the sub crash-dived before visual identification. Raby began Hedgehog runs, but the Japanese commander was adapting. He twisted and turned beneath the waves, changing depths with precision, outmaneuvering every pattern. Miss after miss echoed in the silence of the deep. Then it was England's turn. Pendleton, calm as ever, leaned on the confidence his crew had earned. The sonar tracking, the firing calculations, the lightning-quick reloads, all of it had been sharpened with every engagement. He studied the movement patterns, predicted a turn just before the 4th salvo, and fired. 10 detonations. A low rumble followed by an immense shuddering blast. Breaking up noises echoed through the hull. The crew felt it before they heard confirmation. Debris. Oil. Kill number 4. 4 submarines in 4 days. The kill wasn't just another mark on the tally, it was psychological warfare. The Japanese submarine force was beginning to feel hunted. Word was spreading through the Imperial Navy. Submarine commanders knew something, or someone, was out there, and they were dying without ever seeing their enemy. But Pendleton had no time for reflection. There were still 3 submarines left. On May 24th, radar picked up RO-116 on the surface at 1:20 a.m. She dove fast, but not fast enough to escape sonar. England was ready. This commander, though, tried a new approach, staying shallow. It was a gamble. Most submarines went deep to cushion themselves from explosions, but at shallow depth, the Hedgehog fuses might be set too deep, allowing the sub to survive. That gamble failed. The first salvo exploded with violent force. Not the thunderclap of battery explosions, but the brutal efficiency of hull punctures. Slow death. Seawater poured in through multiple breaches. The submarine's systems collapsed. Temperature rose. Metal twisted under pressure. Within 6 minutes, RO-116 was gone. 56 more men lost. 5 days. 5 submarines. Admiral King, thousands of miles away in Washington, read the action reports in disbelief. 1 destroyer escort, 1 weapon system most captains dismissed. 5 confirmed kills. He sent the now famous message to Third Fleet. There'll always be an England in the United States Navy. The crew didn't have time to celebrate. Fleet radio intercepts had quieted. The Japanese were adjusting. Radio silence, erratic patrol movements, longer dive times, and yet they couldn't change the fundamentals. Batteries needed charging. Subs needed air. Every time they surfaced, they risked detection. England's crew knew that. Then came May 26th. Raby detected another submarine, RO-108. She dove, but England gained sonar contact. Hedgehog fired, multiple detonations. The sub was obliterated before the crew even knew they were under attack. 56 more Japanese sailors lost in seconds. 6 submarines, 6 days. By this point, England's reputation had become mythological. But fame brought danger. Orders came from Admiral Halsey himself to pull England from the hunt. She had become too valuable. Pendleton's division commander refused. There were still submarines left. On May 31st, RO-105 was detected. This commander was different. He used silence, depth, drift. Even surfaced unexpectedly to confuse radar operators. England fired, missed, fired again, missed again. Ammunition was running low. Every salvo mattered. Then sonar picked up a pattern. The sub was turning consistently every 4 minutes. Pendleton calculated, adjusted, and fired. 4 detonations. Then a few minutes later, another salvo. 8 detonations. RO-105 broke apart under the surface. Oil and debris confirmed the kill. 56 more sailors. Gone. 6 submarines, 12 days. Now the legacy was carved in history. England was officially the most effective submarine killer in U.S. Navy history. A destroyer escort, not even considered a frontline ship, had decimated an entire Japanese picket line with tactics, discipline, and trust in a weapon system nobody else believed in. Section 5 coming up now. We'll take the story further, with the aftermath, the legacy, and the heartbreaking fate of USS England itself. The legend of USS England had already swept through the Pacific Fleet. Messages buzzed from ship to ship, port to port, as crews in every theater learned what had happened on the NA line. 6 Japanese submarines destroyed in just 12 days by 1 ship. A destroyer escort, not a battleship, not a cruiser, not even a fleet destroyer. a Buckley-class destroyer escort. Yet that incredible performance came at a cost. USS England's Hedgehog stores were running low. With only a limited number of projectiles remaining, every attack from this point forward would have to be perfect. Each salvo counted. Pendleton knew they were running out of chances, and the final Japanese submarine, RO-109, remained unaccounted for. The question was simple. Would the Hunter strike again, or was the run over? On June 1st, intelligence reports hinted that RO-109 had moved. The last intercepted message from Admiral Toyota had warned surviving subs to avoid the kill zones. The commanders had adapted: deeper patrols, longer silent running, minimum surface time. RO-109's commander, unlike his ill-fated peers, chose evasion over confrontation. That decision saved him. USS England never found RO-109. Despite continuous sonar sweeps, radar scans, and calculated search grids, the final submarine slipped away into the darkness. But Pendleton wasn't disappointed. He and his crew had done more than anyone believed possible. Their achievements had altered the entire landscape of anti-submarine warfare. Naval strategists pored over England's attack logs, timing, sonar readings, and weapon performance. Everything was documented. Every turn, every detonation, every death. And then came the orders. USS England was pulled from the hunt. She was reassigned to carrier escort duty. Many in the crew felt conflicted. They had become experts at something no other ship had done, but they understood. England had proven herself. Now the fleet needed her elsewhere. The Navy moved fast. By July, anti-submarine tactics across the fleet had shifted. Training protocols for sonar operators changed. Fire control officers drilled on England's firing solutions. Hedgehog systems, once doubted, were now at the center of U.S. Navy doctrine. Destroyer escorts across the Pacific carried not just the same weapons, but the same mindset Pendleton had applied: mathematics over instinct, precision over aggression. England returned to duty. She never fired Hedgehog in combat again. Instead, she performed convoy escort, screened carriers, and ran routine patrols. The ship that had rewritten naval warfare went back to the daily grind of the Pacific War, invisible, indispensable, and slowly fading into background operations. Then came October 31st, 1944. While escorting in Leyte Gulf, England came under attack by Japanese kamikaze aircraft. One plane managed to evade AA fire and crashed into her forward engine room. The explosion killed 37 crewmen, wounded 25 more, and crippled the ship. Flames tore through the decks. Water rushed in. Systems failed. Pendleton was not aboard. He had already transferred to another command. But the men who remained fought with the same discipline they had shown in battle. They saved the ship. But barely. The damage was too severe. Navy inspectors determined repairs would cost more than building a new vessel. England was decommissioned, stripped of her equipment, and towed to a holding yard. In 1946, she was sold for scrap. Just 2.5 years after her historic 12-day run, USS England was gone. Her legacy, however, was just beginning. Naval historians began piecing together what she had done: the kill records, the sonar logs, the timing, the precision. 6 submarines in 12 days. No ship, not before, not since, has matched it. Not in the Pacific, not in the Atlantic, not in any theater of war. Pendleton received the Navy Cross. His citation was formal, restrained, as most were. It praised his tactical brilliance, his calm under fire, and his trust in unproven systems. But it didn't mention what really set him apart. He trusted the math. He believed in the numbers. While others leaned on tradition, Pendleton leaned on probability, data, and calculated outcomes. His success proved that warfare was evolving, that raw aggression and instinct weren't enough anymore. Precision was king, and sonar, Hedgehog, and timing were the crown jewels. His career continued after the war. He rose through the ranks, eventually retiring in 1961. He died in 1973, buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His headstone notes his Navy cross, but doesn't mention the 6 submarines. It doesn't mention the 12 days that changed everything. The Navy kept its promise, sort of. In 1960, the guided missile destroyer USS England DLG-22, later CG-22, was commissioned. She served honorably for 32 years before being decommissioned in 1994. Since then, the name England has vanished from the fleet. Admiral King's words, "There'll always be an England in the United States Navy," have gone unfulfilled. Today, the original Hedgehog launcher sits rusting in a storage facility in Washington, D.C. It isn't on display. The placard doesn't mention Pendleton. It doesn't mention the 335 Japanese sailors who died without ever seeing their enemy. It doesn't mention the statistics, the brilliance, or the silent power of mathematics and discipline. But we remember, and if you're reading this, watching this, feeling the impact of what these men accomplished, you're helping keep that memory alive. The sea grew still after RO-105's destruction, but silence was no comfort. USS England had accomplished the impossible. 6 Japanese submarines eliminated in just 12 days. The mission that began as a tactical maneuver had transformed into legend, but even legends have limits. After the 6th kill, orders finally came down from Admiral Halsey himself. England was to be pulled from hunting duty. She had done more than any ship in the fleet. She had become a symbol. But even symbols need protection. Ammunition was running low, the crew exhausted, and the Japanese adapting. The final submarine on the NA line, RO-109, was never found. Intelligence later revealed she had received Toyota's warning and fled the picket line, surviving the war. Pendleton, the man who had trusted numbers over tradition, stood on his bridge, aware his ship would never again be the same. England had changed anti-submarine warfare, tactics, training, doctrine, all rewritten because of what her crew had accomplished in less than 2 weeks. Every destroyer escort in the Pacific would soon carry Hedgehog launchers, and every sonar operator would study the action reports filed by England's crew. But England's war wasn't over. Through summer 1944, she shifted roles: carrier escort, convoy protection, anti-submarine patrol. She served with the same precision and resolve, but never again did she fire her Hedgehogs in combat. The silence beneath the waves held no more targets. Then, on October 31st, 1944, tragedy struck. A Japanese kamikaze aircraft crashed into England off Leyte Gulf. The explosion ripped into her forward engine room, killing 37 sailors and wounding 25 more. The ship survived the impact, but the damage was severe, too severe. Repairs would cost more than building a new destroyer escort from scratch. The decision was made. England was to be decommissioned. She was towed to Manus Island, stripped of parts, and left to rot. In November 1946, just 2 years after her historic patrol, the most successful sub-killer in U.S. Navy history was cut apart for scrap. She ended not with a bang, but in silence. The name lived on, for a while. In 1960, USS England, DLG-22, was commissioned, a guided missile destroyer leader that would serve for 32 years. But when she was decommissioned in 1994, the name disappeared from the fleet. Admiral King's promise, "There'll always be an England in the United States Navy," had been broken. There's no destroyer escort named England today. No active hull to remind sailors of the 12 days that changed everything. At the National Museum of the United States Navy, The original Hedgehog launcher that made the kills sits in storage, rusting, barely noticed. The placard lists its technical specs. It does not mention USS England. It does not mention Walton Pendleton. It does not mention the 6 submarines. But we remember. We remember that 335 enemy sailors were lost not to chance, but to cold, hard precision. We remember that a single ship, armed with a weapon system few trusted, held the line in the Pacific when submarines threatened to blind the Navy. We remember the men who loaded, calculated, pinged and fired, who stayed sharp through sleepless nights and turbulent waters, who brought order to chaos. And we remember the ones who never came home. The 37 sailors killed in the kamikaze strike, the families who got the telegrams, the survivors who lived with memories they couldn't describe. If you're hearing this now, know that their story lives on because of you, because you choose to listen, because you choose to remember. This is why we do what we do. At Ghosts of World War II, we uncover the forgotten. We shine light on the buried. We resurrect the names, the faces, the voices that history too often leaves behind. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of a father, grandfather, brother, or friend, do one thing today. Subscribe to Ghosts of World War II. Hit the like button. It tells YouTube to push this story to more people. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if someone in your family served. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We're not just building a channel. We're building a legacy. Because if we don't tell these stories, who will? USS England may be gone. Her metal recycled. Her deck rusted away. Her Hedgehog silent. But her name and the men who gave it weight still matter. Thanks to you, they always will.